Okay, thank you all for coming. I'll be succinct because it looks like we're a bit late for whatever reason. So I'm going to talk about Plasma, a scalability solution, and what's up with it. So we have a bear market for about a year. Nobody cares about scalability. Everybody's talking about like good UX and everything. But when we get the next CryptoKitties, things are going to change. And so we got to prepare for that new scalability winter. So a year ago, we had Vitalik actually introduce the plasma cache technique in this, not this amphitheater, but this conference. And when he introduced it, there was no code. The spec was underwritten. So let's see where we have come since then. Basically, Plasma is an extension on sidechains. And so I'll do like a brief introduction to sidechains. So you have the parent chain and the other chain, so the initial and the other one. And so what you do is that you take some funds, you lock them in a smart contract, then the other chain, it listens for some event, it creates new funds, then you do whatever you want in the sidechain. And then in order to get your funds out of the sidechain, you need to burn these funds. And then you take this proof of burn receipt, you show it to the other chain, and you say, OK, please unlock my ETH that I unlocked initially. But the thing is that if you want to do scalability, usually you cannot have a proof of work sidechain. Well, you can, but it's going to be good for interoperability, but not scalability. So if you have a more scalable blockchain, I will claim that it will be less secure in this example. So an example of an attack is that basically the sidechain will never let you withdraw your funds. Why? Because it will never let you burn your funds so that you will take it to the other chain. So this means that sidechains are custodial, so the funds are as secure as the sidechain consensus. And if you don't have like a secure enough consensus, such as proof of work, well, don't judge me for the proof of stake, well, you're not always guaranteed to get your funds out. So what would we do with Plasma? The solution is that instead of having like always to do a burn transaction, every block gets submitted. Every block gets, from the Plasma chain, it gets committed to the parent chain. And this is done by somebody who is an untrusted, basically the database manager of the Plasma chain, which is called usually in our lingo like the operator. And so the operator takes every block, like they produce blocks and they submit all your transactions, and they take them and they commit the Merkle root of the block to the parent chain. So Plasma is non-custodial. The funds are secured by the parent chain. So if you have a proof of work chain, your funds are as secure, I will claim, as the proof of work security. But you also need to have like some extra responsibilities, which is called, we use something called an exit game. So what is this game? So whenever you want to withdraw your funds, you actually need to wait some time. You start an attestation. You say, I want to withdraw my funds at this block. Then you need to wait T, which is some sort of security parameter. And then after T passes and nobody makes some sort of dispute, you can finalize your exit and get your funds out. But again, there is a problem that because the database manager cannot be trusted, at any time, like there may be some sort of invalid state transition, or your exit request may not be valid. So what you do is that you allow challenges, disputes, as the previous speaker said. So what you do is that during this time T, if anybody sets a dispute, your exit is canceled. And usually, you introduce some sort of security deposit. So I make a deposit. I say, I start the exit, and I put a bounty. I say, I have like a stake of 1 Ether on this exit. And if somebody challenges my exit, I lose that Ether. I forfeit that Ether. So I'm directly incentivized, let's say, to act honestly. Otherwise, I lose money, and not good. So in Plasma Cache, what happens is that in order to, like, contrary to other Plasma constructions, basically, there is a requirement that you do not have a vulnerability called a mass exit, where basically a lot of users need to rush to get out of the sidechain if something goes wrong. And you want light clients because you want the actual to be able to fully validate your funds in your phone, because otherwise you need to have like gigabytes of data on you, which is not desired. So what you do is that you have UTXO-based model. So we're taking some lessons from Bitcoin here. We have one input, one output UTXOs. So the transactions, they're non-fungible. If I have 5 Ether, just like cash, I can only pass around 5 Ether. I cannot break it in half. I cannot tear the bill apart. We utilize a data structure called the sparse Merkle tree, which has inclusion proofs. But because it's an ordered Merkle tree, it allows you to also do exclusion proofs, which we'll see why it's important. And basically, the process is that whenever you deposit your coins, you get some funds with a serial number, which is like the coin ID that you own. And whenever you transact, you reference some parent transaction. And when you exit, you also like reference 2 blocks. So let's see how this actually works. So initially, we'll go through a simple example. We have Alice, the usual suspect. Alice deposits, let's say, 5 Ether in the plasma chain. It appears out of nowhere, in a sense, and she transfers it to Bob. So Bob must always verify the transaction history. So it's a UTXO-based model, so whenever you receive a transaction, you need to verify that the UTXO you're getting is valid. So what Bob does is that he verifies the Merkle inclusion proof in the last block. And he checks that it's OK, so he accepts the coin. Then at block 3, like some other coins transact, but like our coin does not move. So we do not care, we do not do anything. Maybe we download the exclusion proof. Actually, we must download the exclusion proof. Because when Bob wants to send the coin to another party, not only must he send the inclusion proofs at block 1 and 2, but he must also show that it wasn't spent at block 3. Because in this example, it's pretty clear that if Bob would spend it at block 3 and then spend it again at block 4, it's a double spend. So Charlie, it is his responsibility to always verify that there was no double spend or invalid state transition in the coin's history. And then if Charlie wants to exit, he will reference 2 blocks, he will wait a week, or whatever the security parameter we set, and after that period passes, he can withdraw his funds and he can get wherever he wants to go. The procedure for this, like we model each coin as a state machine. So in the happy case, I have a coin that I have just deposited. I exit it, it's in this state. I wait 7 days, I can finalize the exit, and then I can take the coin out. So this is like the happiest scenario, which, if we have designed our construction properly, it should always happen. In the non-interactive challenge case, so we have 2 types of challenges, the interactive and the non-interactive. A non-interactive challenge is one that takes an exit and it instantly cancels it. So you do the state transition to exiting, and then you go back to the original one, and gets directly canceled. In the interactive challenge case, what happens is that we have a counter per coin. So whenever interactive challenge happens, you increment that counter. So now this coin has a 1 counter, for example, of the pending challenges. And whenever somebody responds to the challenge, that counter is decremented. But what happens is that if nobody responds within some time period, which is also a security parameter, the coin is, again, it's going back to the original state. But again, if somebody responds to the challenges that you made, the coin resumes its withdrawal as before. So this is the state transition function, essentially. And because this is like a very simple state machine, it allows us to model essentially all the security properties very easily. I'm going to go now through the 3 types of challenges that we see in Plasma Cash. So basically, the very first challenge is the non-interactive one, where I have a coin, I spend it to somebody, and then I directly try to exit it. So I'm trying to exit a spent coin. And what the very simple challenge is that you reveal the spending transaction. So at block 2, I try to exit, and somebody can challenge by revealing a spend from block 2. That's pretty straightforward. In the double spend case, what happens is that we consider that Charlie does not validate the coin's history. So at block 1, he checks he's colluding with Alice to steal the coin. So what happens is that Alice sends the coin to Bob, and then Alice directly sends the coin to Charlie, or essentially Charlie is Alice. And what happens is that if Charlie wants to exit the coin, Bob can at any time like challenge and say, no, like I got the coin before you, like get out. And the final type of challenge, which is the interactive challenge, is like actually more involved, because in order to have this type of situation, so in order not to have an arrow going from one block to another, but after that block you have some state transition, the operator must be malicious. And this is the type of attack that, for example, when it happens in the other Plasma variants, when the operator shows that they're malicious, everybody needs to get out of the chain, which is a dangerous situation. So in Plasma Cash, we get this very nice property that you need to watch only your coins. So in this case, what happens is that Alice has her coin, and after, let's say, a number of blocks, Bob suddenly has the coin. Why? Whatever, because the operator is an untrusted party. He owns the coins. He can do whatever he wants with his centralized database. And what happens is that maybe they transact a bit with it. They're all colluding parties. They're all friends, and they're going to steal the money from Alice. And basically, Dylan then tries to exit the coin. So the challenge to this is that you do an invalid history challenge. And basically, you attest that there is a missing link in the history of the coin. And if there is no missing link, such as in this case, if there is a missing link, such as in this case, there is no way for Bob or any other party to prove that Alice spent the coin, which is good because Alice keeps her coin. In the other case, though, where if Alice actually did spend the coin, but she still wanted to challenge because whatever, because she wants to grief the other party from exiting, you can still reveal a spend from the invalid history challenge and cancel the challenge. So this is like how we have the 3 challenge types. So in order to keep this secure, there are some very specific requirements. We want somebody must challenge, basically, because if nobody watches, who will challenge? And this is like a security property for any layer 2 solution, not sidechains, but for state channels, for payment channel network, for Plasma, you name it. So somebody must be there to challenge. And this, it's a reasonable assumption, I will say, but some people may argue with me. And also, we want to design it so that the expected reward of the attacker is less than 0. Because if an attacker can basically keep trying to exit a coin, and the coin is worth, I don't know, like 1,000 Ether, and the cost to attack is $1, and maybe after 100 tries they succeed, the expected reward is positive. So we want to keep the cost to attack always higher than the profit, basically. And all the layer 2 games, we implement them as deferred optimists, we call it, so that you need to wait some time before the game ends, which is for the liveness. And so what happens is that, let's say we have a malicious exit at some time 0, and then at time 1, somebody broadcasts the challenge. So what must happen in order to keep this secure is that the challenge must be included, the transaction must be verified before T0 plus T. However, what happens is that this D that I show here, it's a security parameter also, which means that if the parent chain quality is not good, so if there is censorship going on, or if the congestion going on, if you have CryptoKitties being played, basically, this can be delayed more. And if it's delayed a lot, well, you lose your money. So that's what I mean by saying that your funds are as secure as the parent chain. So it is a requirement that you use a secure parent chain. So you will want to use maybe a proof of work chain or something similar, or something with finality. And basically, we have this safety condition. And how does an attacker think? They try to make an exit. If somebody challenges them, the attack fails. If nobody challenges them, they get back the bond that they put up, the 1 Ether or whatever amount. They get back they steal the coin, so they earn whatever monetary value is in the coin, and they lose whatever gas fee they paid. However, what an attacker can actually do is that they can do a front-running attack where basically attacker exits, challenger challenges, and attacker challenges themselves, and they manage to get the challenge transaction in before the other guy, which means that they're able to get back the bond that they paid, which reduces drastically the cost to attack. So a very simple fix to this is that you simply, instead of giving the whole bond to the attacker, so I exit, I put up 1 Ether. If somebody challenges me, they get 1 Ether. You say that the attacker will get, I don't know, 30% of the Ether. You pick it. So this way, we can keep the game incentive compatible. And basically, we have a sort of modeling we can do in order to keep things legit. So far, we talked about Plasma Cash, fixed denominations. How can we get forward to this? So all credits for this implementation. So what I've talked about so far, and for the rest of the talk, everything has been implemented and being deployed and been tested. Nothing is theoretical. So these very smart fellows have developed an application which actually can do more than what I just described. How does it do it? I have a euro, 1 euro coin with some serial number. In the Plasma Cash model, it is 1 coin. So in the Plasma Cash flow model, the naming joke, everybody hates it, you break it down in 10 fragments of 10 cents each. And instead, it's literally just a change in your mental model. Instead of having 1 coin, you have a coin line. And essentially, what you can do is that you can transfer a non-interrupted range in 1 transaction. And you can also exit a non-interrupted range in 1 transaction. And a non-interrupted range can have any granularity. So instead of, in this case, for example, I have a 0 to 75 coin, which can be whatever the minimum denomination is. But I could as easily exit 0 to 12.5, for example. And obviously, if I don't own the whole range, and if I have a gap, and I try to exit the whole range, a valid challenge is just 1 coin. So this gives us still light client properties because you still do not need to download like a lot of data in order to make valid challenges. Yeah, so another thing that you can do, which is a very nice construction, is that if you have like two ranges with a gap in between, you can coordinate with the parties who can fill your gaps basically, and defragment your ranges. So from this, where you have two ranges and one in between, you basically do an atomic swap between the coins in between and the coins in the side, and you now own one range, the other party still owns one range. You maybe want to pay them a fee to incentivize them to do this act, or well, it's beneficial to everyone. And this way, you can keep you can essentially consolidate the ranges that you own, which is a very nice property because, again, you can exit more funds in less transactions. It's an efficiency gain. And how do we do this? Like the construction that's being used, it's a Merkle index tree, because the difference with the sparse Merkle tree is that it also supports ranges. So this is a 1-hour discussion on this, so there's no time to actually describe this, but I suggest you watch this video with this very nice interview with Ben. And yeah, so let's do a quick summary over what I talked about. So we have non-custodial sidechains, which work by notarizing blocks, which is what I've been calling a commit chain. So you have a sidechain which commits blocks, commit chain, yeah. It doesn't have a mass exit vulnerability, which is the original desideratum. You have off-chain gasless payments, which do not have any cost and any cost to onboard yourself, which is a big advantage over payment channels, because in payment channels you need to do a funding transaction, wait some time, etc., etc. You can think of it like the easiest way to think about it, like if you're designing applications on Ethereum and not on a sidechain or a plasma chain, is that it literally is a compression mechanism. So anybody who says that layer 2 is like, if layer 1 scales like layer 2 is irrelevant, don't listen to them. You always need layer 2 for efficiency reasons. The big advantage of Plasma is that, of this Plasma variant, is that you can audit the main chain contract and not the sidechain contract, which is like very, you need to audit literally much less data. And what's in the future? So the arbitrary denomination payments, like a few weeks earlier, it was not crossed away, but looks like it's solved. We want to do even lighter clients. So Plasma Cash, Cashflow, they're very good, but we want to try better. A very prominent proposal was the Rsa Accumulator, which was proposed by the Stanford Cryptography Group a few months ago. It got a lot of hype, but we got to the result that basically there is a computational bottleneck because it involves exponentiating multiple times. And basically, if you want to exponentiate 1 million coins, because you have accumulated like 1 million coins, literally the operation to do this, it takes too long. The Rsa accumulators, in my opinion, will be reconsidered once we have hardware that can do exponentiation very fast. And it happens to be that the Ethereum 2.0 is working on this with what they're calling a VDF ASIC, which is basically hardware which will be able to do exponentiation very hard for their own reasons. But we can reuse that. The current approach towards compacting the history is going to be some sort of other zero knowledge proof, such as a snark or a stark or some other black magic. And the way that we want to do smart contracts on Plasma, because currently it's just payments, you want to use either state channels on Plasma, which is my preference, or a recent construction which was thought of a little earlier than ETH-Denver and was implemented as a POC on ETH-Denver called predicates. And I have a link if you want to read more about it. And that's about it. Thank you very much, and I'm pretty confident I can answer all of your questions.
Thanks very much for that. I was just wondering, what kind of user interface are you imagining for the people issuing and managing the challenges? Are these going to be kind of professionals maintaining a Plasma sidechain, or people receiving notifications on an app and checking on things? I'm just curious, in this future world, what does it look like for regular people? So
the question is that, how will users challenge to keep their funds safe? So firstly, I expect with a very high probability that there will be services that will basically do challenges for you. If you will, semi-trustless watchtowers. So trustless watchtowers are a good thing, but it will for sure happen that we will have some sort of semi-trusted watchtower. On the other hand, if you design it if the light client requirements are good enough, you can actually put a Plasma wallet or some sort in the browser, in your Opera wallet, which is already being worked on. And basically, the moment that you open your wallet, because the client is very light and it runs a full node on your mobile phone, you can just have a service like an application, like you open Facebook every day or something like that, right? Which will basically issue all the challenges directly. And that's it. And you will parameterize the security parameter so that you will, for yourself, so that you come online every whatever amount of period. But the way the world is going, like I do not know many people who can manage to stay offline for 15 days. Yeah. So, should I go over this, or do you want to take a picture? Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.